Late last year, I took 3 months off from my corporate job to rest and reset. I didn't know it at the time, but it was autistic burnout. The effect of that break has changed my life, and I have zero regrets. 3 months away from work, it does something magical to your body and your mind as well. So I want to take you on my journey of how I made this happen. And for anyone who stays to the end, I'll walk you through the planning setup that I used in Notion. About a year ago now, I was a real mess. I was too tired to socialize, too tired to maintain relationships. I was home a lot, but I was also too tired to maintain my home, which isn't very nice. I wasn't exercising or taking care of myself properly, and I had this crazy tension in my neck and back and shoulders. I think it's quite common, but it's not great. The impact is that you end up not being able to sleep very well, and if you can't sleep, it's just this whole vicious cycle, right? I was seeing a physical therapist for my shoulder impingement, and I think it was all related to sitting down at a desk all the time. Just to be clear, I didn't hate my job. I really liked my colleagues. I think the company itself, great, very well established, very well run, and I'd say a stellar reputation out there. It was nice having regular paycheck, being well paid, getting bonuses. It meant I got to spend my money to travel, and I did have some amazing adventures. From that whole point of view, the company and my colleagues, I don't have any regrets about the experience. And in that time, I contributed like mad to my pension and did some savings as well. So I feel like I was in a pretty secure position building up to this asking for unpaid leave, especially knowing that I should have a job to come back to. Just the mere act of getting yourself out of bed and presentable and getting yourself to the office and then showing up in the office and being nice to everybody, even if you like them, it's a lot of work and it can really, really exhaust you. I thought I had to do that 9 to 5, get a good job. First, I started researching what it would take to have this break. So the first thing I thought about was if I was going to have a break, how would I spend my time? Some folks in burnout need to be really still, to nest, to hunker down, to surround themselves by familiarity, people that support them, and to just rejuvenate that way through hobbies, through play. For me, though, I was sort of itching to get away, not run from my problems, but to get to places that I really, really wanted to go, and places that are hard to get to from the UK using the usual, like, say, 2-week, maybe 3-week holiday format. So for me, the traveling was a no-brainer. And in order to facilitate that, I actually started house sitting in my local area. So I lived in London, house sitting in Greater London and Surrey. That helped me get established as a house sitter. I had good ratings, and for me personally, I love cats, so I just focused on cats as well. The house sitting meant that I could travel and not have to pay for accommodation. So that was my sort of secret weapon, especially knowing that I wasn't going to get a paycheck. And then the next question I asked myself was I confident enough? And the answer was a resounding yes. And I know that's possibly just because of my past experience when I was traveling. Well, I did a lot of travel with work, with former partners, and even on my own. At the time I was planning this, I'd been to 43 countries already, and 12 of them had been on my own. And I count that even if it was just 3 days at the end of a organized group travel. Although, if I'm being totally honest, 5 of those were from the security of a cruise ship, but still counts. I'm not counting countries where I only transited through the airport. Then it was down to how much are things going to cost and how much do I want to spend. So as I mentioned before, I have been living below my means and saving and basically trying to undo all the mistakes I did from my 20s and 30s around spending. So in terms of logistics, I have it easier than most. I don't have children. I don't have elderly parents that live here. So yeah, it's just friends, and I have a tiny bit of family that live in this country, but otherwise everyone is in the States. And my leadership is all based in the United States. There was a policy in black and white, so I was able to show them this policy. In the end, we got there. It was agreed I would take 3 months off, not 6. I would come back to the same role. I'd say the whole approval process was between 2 and 3 months. So in the meantime, while all of this approval process was going on and I'm house sitting, I also started thinking about my goals. So how would I spend this time? Because I can hear my mother's voice saying, use your time wisely. So my overall plan was to rest and reset. As I mentioned, I wanted to go to some faraway places. Also a great opportunity to see friends and family that live really far away. I'd say the big piece was doing some personal improvement. I wanted to have a reset where I would pick up some better exercise habits. And the big thing was I wanted to think about my future, right? What am I gonna do with my life? At this point, I knew I had ADHD and that time blindness is a huge problem for me. So I knew that if I didn't plan this, then this time would just be gone in a flash. I signed up for an 8-week ADHD career masterclass, and I thought that would be a good time to complete this while I was away because I'd have the mental space to do this deep thinking that this course required. There was also going to be some homework to take away and also some offline activities. I also had a few other goals, but I'll talk about those in a bit. Budgeting. I thought about 100 pounds a day made sense. That's 126 US dollars, and that should include all food, accommodation, transportation, and other spending like tours, or if I needed to replace anything on my travels. I still think that's a lot of money. Accommodation is the biggest budget killer, so my plan to house sit was solid. I could have spent less money on accommodation. There's lots of different ways, but I also wanted to make sure that I had time to focus on my goals. So that meant being in a place where I could concentrate, where I had like a comfortable place to work. So that ruled out places like hostels. I don't think I would have been very productive, and that just, no, it's not me. I could have saved money by traveling more slowly. I did do a fair few internal flights in Australia, but that was part of the plan that I had put together. And I used Notion to do the planning, and I used Google Sheets to track the budgeting. So you might be wondering how I did on my spending, but actually I don't know. I started off recording all of my spending during the planning phase, and I kind of just lost interest. I think that's a very ADHD thing, where that sweet spreadsheet dopamine runs out. So, but if anyone is curious and wants to request it, please do, because that will give me the kick I need. I am kind of curious how much I spent. It's just going to be a bit of time to pull the information together. If you're going to travel on your sabbatical, and let's be clear, it's not required, you don't have to travel, but if you are, then the planning side is super fun. Blue sky thinking, and in the end, it ended up being a tour of English-speaking places, which wasn't my intention, but because the way the 6 months compressed into 3, I had to make some choices. And because of some of the things and places and people, that's where they happen to be. Specifically, I went to Canada for 1 week. I went to Hawaii and took a Trans-Pacific cruise to Sydney, Australia. Amazing. And then I spent about 2 months in Australia, Sydney, Port Douglas, Western Australia, and the Southern Highlands, and also Canberra. Actually, I made a whole video about that as a kitty. After Australia, I went back to Hawaii to see a friend, and then Los Angeles to see some family, and then back to the UK. So the next thing you might be wondering is, what does it feel like? What does it feel like to have a break? Emotionally, I was extraordinarily overjoyed, as you might expect. Very, very excited. This is a huge adventure, a huge opportunity. The physical impact was pretty interesting. My sleep, I was able to sleep better mostly. It does depend on the environment, but a lot of it is what's happening inside your own head, obviously. I was able to do yoga most days. I had a nice little routine when I was on the cruise ship where I would wake up, make myself my own coffee, and when I felt ready to face the public, I'd go get breakfast on my own and come back to the room and then spend the morning sort of chilling out. I didn't really kind of start interacting with people until the afternoon, late afternoon. Every day at 7 p.m. the solo meetup group met at the same wine bar, so that was a nice sort of anchor in my day. I think I probably caught up with everybody most days. It was amazing to feel my shoulders sort of drop, relax and drop. It was really noticeable about a month into the break. At that time was about a week into a month-long house sit. So I had this stable base where I could have groceries and unpack and do laundry whenever I wanted. I don't always want to be cooking and doing laundry, but it's nice to have that break from hand washing and eating out all the time. And mentally, I wasn't overstimulated at all. I think I was spending a lot of time by myself. That's okay though. I'm a total introvert. I don't mind being alone. I'm never bored. And actually there's plenty of ways to meet people when you're traveling. Before the month-long cat sit, I joined a social group for the area where I was going to be in Australia. And through them, I did a couple of their meetups, and that was nice. I stayed in touch with people from the cruise ship, and I met up with them. And I met some other people on a tour when I was in Western Australia. I met them again. And of course, I had some friends in Australia to catch up with. So I didn't feel isolated, quite happy with how all that worked out. Interestingly though, once I returned to the United States, so once I got back to Hawaii and then I was in Los Angeles, I could feel the stress coming back again. And I don't know if it was because of the impending, you have to go back to work, or if it was because I was moving around a lot, maybe both. But overall, definitely a huge improvement. So in terms of my goals, how did I do? Well, not bad. I've given each one a score out of 10. I was able to get photographs that belonged to my grandmother and from my early life before digital, all scanned. Driving license, fail, but I have another way to get to it. Family history research, well, that was the Canada project. It was a fail. The provincial court and the provincial archives can't seem to agree on where this particular court case is, so I'm stuck until. I gave myself 8 out of 10 on the slow travel. I think that the Trans-Pacific cruise was such a fabulous idea. It was 18 nights and it was nice to just have that slower pace. I had this feeling of adventure, of being bold, of being terrified to know that it's like more than 4,000 meters deep in places, but also honoring my need for alone time. So I had a cabin where I felt comfortable spending a lot of time in there. I'd always fancied going to Western Australia. It's so incredibly far away. Mental health improvements, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Physical health improvements, 7 out of 10. I haven't been as good about the exercising. It comes and goes. Like I've definitely had days where I was hitting like 12,000 steps. Other days it's more like 3,000. In terms of career direction, I gave myself an 8 out of 10. One of the other big things that came out for me is that I value freedom and flexibility. And so that does say to me that I don't think working in a corporate environment tied to one location is right for me. I feel really fortunate that I've come to this realization at a time and an age where it's possible to be working remotely. You don't have to be in one location. So the technology's there. So I have some ideas and I will be pursuing those. So in the end, the biggest challenge was the fact that the class timing every week was fixed, but I was the one that was moving across time zones. While I was away, I conceived the whole idea of better neurodivergent travel, and I started thinking about how I could help people. And I also had some ideas for some creative side projects. That was a huge fail. I didn't have time for that in the end, and that's okay. You have to be realistic, right? Just a few lessons learned. I don't think any of these are going to be new, but the main one is that just go easy on yourself if you're planning something like this. Be really realistic about what you can achieve, especially in the time given. If you're healing from burnout as well, then really, really go easy on yourself. Things might not go to plan, but sometimes there's not much you can do about it, so you have to just accept it, which is easier said than done. The second one is to acknowledge your limitations. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with the previous one. I came to terms with the fact that I can't work around other people and be focused. I think working around other people has a time and a place, and I know for some people, maybe some people with ADHD, that body doubling really works for them. It does for me, but only under the strictest of circumstances, so no interruptions. Yeah, I'm curious if people find body doubling useful or if they've even tried it, because it's kind of a weird thing to ask.
Hey, want to hang out and I'm not going to speak to you?
The neurodivergent mind is working overtime, taking in so much information and processing it that it's really hard to be doing that all the time. So that's why I think having, walls around you is really, really helpful. And I meant that metaphorically. I think probably being in a van would be really, really healing as well. Hashtag van life. Working full time for me is a trade-off. I'm glad I did it as long as I did, but I'm at a point now where I'm ready for a slower pace. And if that means earning less money, that's fine too. Working at a fantastic Fortune 500 company is not like winning the life lottery. It really, really depends on your own personal needs. Yeah, it's not a one size fits all, but I'm grateful I had the experience. The third one is practicing self-care. Probably people are sick of hearing about this just generally, but this is what I mean is this kind of self-care that isn't very fun, but it's going to serve you well in the long term. So eating well, getting good sleep, exercise, drinking water, breathing, and gosh, no, and I still have lots of work to do in that area as well. But so yeah, this is a reminder to myself also. I'm at the age where I'm already, I'm at the age now where I'm already feeling the limitations of like my physical body, which sucks. And if I don't do anything about improving, if I don't do anything to turn that around now, then I think later in life it's going to really come back to haunt me. If you think taking a gap year or an unpaid break from work or even just a career break, some people just quit their jobs and take a year off to reassess. I think it's well worth considering because it is a transformation and we only have one shot at life as far as we know. And I think you got to take some risks in life. I downloaded one of the free travel planning templates that they have. So at my home screen, I just had my primary goals as a ready reminder. The main reason I was using Notion is so that I could keep track of all of my destinations. Once I filtered all of my travel plans down to what was actually happening, I added a column to track the number of stops I was making, and then I listed where I was going, any destination notes, and the status. And the status could be things like whether it was still being planned, whether it was still in the idea phase, whether I postponed it or junked it. And the difference between postponed and junked is like, if I decide this is actually a terrible idea, I never want to go there, then that's junked. Otherwise, things were booked. There's also 2 date columns, a start date and an end date, that allows you to calculate the duration, which is actually pretty useful, especially when you go onto the calendar view. So yeah, I think that's probably enough of an overview. I found it pretty useful. I'm currently not using it now for my other travels, but I think it's because I'm traveling more slowly, so it doesn't feel necessary. And with that, have a great day.